Bluff City Media presents the Two Buck Sports Show. Stepping up to the microphone are your hosts, Drew Gann and Rusty Witten. Now, let's get to the show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Two Buck Sports Show. I am your co-host, Rusty Buckets, checking in as always with my guy, Uncle Buck, Drew Gann. What's up, brother? How are you, man?
I'm good. Listen, it's probably my favorite. I think it is absolutely my favorite holiday week. I just waffled over that, although I've been saying for years that Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday of the year. I think It's because I'm also in the Christmas spirit. And so, here we go, here and there. But Thanksgiving is by far the best holiday of the year. We're coming up on it. The kids are out of school. My wife is out of school. And I've got turkeys on the green egg as we speak. And we're going to my mom's tonight for our whole family cooking. And so, it's great. How are you?
Yeah, man. Good, man. Again, Thanksgiving is the GOAT holiday. I've got 3 meals planned. Maggie and I are doing one Wednesday night. Thursday, we are doing a Thanksgiving with her family in Jackson. Friday, we'll be at Mama Lee's for a cook-in, and it's just like 3 days of eating. So as you're listening to this, I will probably be about 400 pounds or at least a pant size bigger for sure.
Yeah, we will be listening to this show live with everybody on Thursday. At 3 o'clock on Friday. And we will be in the horizontal position with our pants unbuttoned.
Yep.
As we just hang out with you guys in the comments.
We're just wearing stretchy pants, man. There ain't no buttons. Like, it's sweatpants, it's shorts. My cousin Mary posts this every year on Thanksgiving. It makes me laugh every time. So I've already seen it at this point. It's a meme, and it says the best part about being a mom is your maternity pants become my turkey pants.
Yes. And that's the 3rd year of the Two Buck Sports Show that we've heard this joke. So traditions are the best.
That's what Thanksgivings are for. They're for good and bad traditions, whether you like them or not. That's what you get. And so it is happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Happy 3rd anniversary. 3rd anniversary of the Two Buck Sports Show. We our first episode dropped on November 26, 2022. Way back in the day.
2nd anniversary.
So third
Thanksgiving, but 2nd anniversary.
Exactly. Sorry. Thank you. Math is hard, man. I'm not an engineer. But Drew, congratulations on making it 2 whole years. Look at this mug every week, talking for sometimes an hour, sometimes 2 when we get really heated. But it's been a fun ride. It's been, especially the last year, that 2 rednecks from North Mississippi got picked up by such a good network with talented creators, and they stuck us in on the backside. Just grateful to be here with you and with the talent around us for sure.
I'm going to tell you, after dealing with you for 2 years on a show for public consumption, I'll never understand how people get to the point of divorce, because I've never thought about quitting this show, but I've thought about murdering you. So
likewise,
divorce was never an option though. Murder, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, that's the only way out of this show. Like, there's not going to be cancellation. Like, there's not going to be anything other than a murdering, and probably live. It'd make good content. You know what I mean? Like, we put on a Patreon or something.
That's why we don't record this together. That's why we only
did it one time, and it went well. But it's way better we're not in arm's length, because when he starts like being a purist about Taylor Jenkins, and I just want to be like, can you just accept criticism?
Yeah. And I just want to be like, can you just have a little kindness in your heart? Like, geez, not everything is worth dying over. So we're going to start this show. That was a nice little thing. That snuck up on me. I'm glad you brought that up. We start this show as we've started every other show. I am just the biggest marble mouth this afternoon. I don't know if it's because we're recording this at lunchtime and I'm in my hoodie and just chilling out with things on the grill, and I'm just like in this laid back mode to where I'm just like, I don't want to think about words or something. It's just not wanting to come out. I don't know. Anyways,
try again, because meanwhile I'm on my lunch break trying to be efficient with this, and Drew's over here just slurping everything together, and I'm like, bro, what are we doing, man? Come on.
Yeah. So we're going to start this show off with our best and beef segment of the week. We're 2 best friends, and I just want to hear how your week is going so far. What's the best thing that's happened to you this week?
Best thing that happened to me this week was Saturday night. Maggie and I had another date night celebrating her birthday. We went to a phenomenal restaurant in Memphis called Flight. If you know, you know.
Heard of it.
It's downtown. Dude, I'm telling you, Drew, like, it is one of those that is worth saving up and going to. They do flights of food. I got a steak flight that had literally a filet, a top choice ribeye, and an elk steak. And it was incredible. Everything was cooked perfectly. It was super good. Had a bottle of wine, nice dinner. We had a dessert flight that consisted of a chocolate pecan pie, an apple cobbler, and then a caramel crusted cheesecake. Yeah. Oh my God, dude. It was just like, it was next level. Like all the food was really, really good. Maggie had a fish flight that was really tasty. And then we culminated the night going to the FedEx Forum for something other than a Memphis Grizzlies game, a concert. We went and saw Justin Timberlake bring sexy back to Memphis, circa 2008, whenever that song came out. But no, it was a really good show. Like, he's not my style of music, but I appreciate it and that it's entertaining. But from like an audio visual standpoint, like the light show, the screens, everything that he did, the videos was the most impressive and entertaining thing I have literally ever seen at a concert. Oh man, I'm so jealous. Got the Christmas.
The greatest thing about my wife being home out of school is I can send a text message back. Will you bring me some coffee, please? And here it comes in a Santa mug.
Hey, Haley, if you bring me some too, that'd be great. I could use some about now.
Coffee.
Yeah. But anyway, I was on a roll. But Justin Timberlake concert was really, really great. The audio visual. He has this big light box, and I won't spoil it for anybody who's coming and going to a show coming up that may be listening to this. But like the box moves and it's very interactive, and he does some cool stuff. He represents Memphis hard, celebrates Memphis as a city. Multiple times in his concert, he said, "It's a parade inside my city." Yeah. And it was fun to watch. And so JT was great entertainment. Best of the week was, again, another successful date night with my lady.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if Justin Timberlake was in my backyard, I wouldn't open the blinds, I'm just kidding. It's not my cup of tea either, but you can't deny that he would put on a show. And I would assume that it would be a spectacle.
It was awesome. It was. And I ended up about 15, maybe 20 feet from Jessica Biel. I'm standing there.
Now we're talking. If she's in my backyard, I will
open in the blind. So there's like a little family area where his family was, and Maggie had some connections to his family. And she's like, "Oh, that's his dad, his stepmom, his stepbrother, whatever." I'm like, cool. And then towards the end of the show, I look over and I'm like, that lady looks familiar. Frumpy clothes, hat, ball cap pulled low. I was like, she looks familiar. I'm vibing out the music. I look back and I was like,
that's the girl from Seventh Heaven.
I was like, Jessica Biel. Like, Maggie, that's Jessica Biel. She's like, stop pointing. I was like, I'm sorry. It's Jessica Biel. Like, that's the closest I've ever been to a
40 years old. Pull it together.
But then she was also equally freaking out. We're both like, oh my God, that's Jessica Biel. She's literally right there. And she stayed for like a couple songs, then snuck out. But you could tell she's trying to be low key with her ball cap down low. It's very much like a Marvel Comics like cover up, right? Like a frumpy hoodie and then like a low ball cap. And like, nobody knows who she is.
Like when Clark Kent puts on, when Superman puts on glasses and they're like, oh, who's this guy?
Exactly. She had a ball cap and a frumpy hoodie. And it's like, I don't know who she is, other than the fact that it's straight up Jessica Biel.
Yeah. Listen, my best of the week is just that the kids and the wife are out of school. Like, I love coming home and like the kids are here at lunchtime.
Yeah.
And we've had and we don't have like bedtimes either. So like I'm like bedtime police in our house. Like everybody needs to be in their bed. They need to be in bed at the same time. We need to routine. That's me. Okay. And so every time that the Grizzlies are on, Braxton will sit in there in the room with me, and at halftime, it's time for him to go to bed. That's about 8:30 is when halftime is. And so I was like, all right, it's time for bed. And every time he's like, when I wake up, I'm going to ask you who won. And I was like, okay. And last night he kind of stood up at halftime, and I was like, hey, just sit back down. We can watch this game. And so it was a good game to watch. And so I like the holiday season. I like the fall and winter holidays, especially because those are the ones where you get like a week out of school or a week to just do whatever. And so we're recording this on Tuesday night. And so we've got a dinner tonight. We've got a dinner Wednesday night. We're going to my father-in-law's on Thursday. We've got my mother-in-law's on Saturday. And so we are just going to be eating like crazy and trying not to have any cares in the world.
Yeah. And rumor has it there's going to be another eating on Sunday where the $2 sample some food for our listeners. Dun, 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 dot, 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 to be continued, foreshadowing. So what goes up must come down. And my beef of the week is, how when you like hurt something or something happens, like you can consistently like hit it over and over and over again.
It's like biting the inside of your cheek.
Exactly. So Monday morning, I was in the gym and I was tightening up my weight belt and it's got Velcro, and somehow some of the stiff Velcro got under the edge of my thumb, like nail here. And I mean, I acted a fool. I caused a scene because it was like a burning hot. Like I jumped back. I was like, what the? And like, it took me a minute to realize what happened. It like, I mean,
got a hold on me.
Exactly over the squat, right? I'm sure people are just like, what's this clown? Like I'm over there like having a full on meltdown. I mean, it was a visceral response. I had zero control over my flailing that happened.
Yeah, well, as Ray Stevens once said, Rusty had dialed, dancing, screamed. Some thought he got religion, others thought he got a demon.
That's it. That was me over there in squat rack yesterday morning. Well, then last Monday night, I'm cooking over at Maggie's and I'm peeling some potatoes to cut up for fries. And somehow potato like caught up underneath it. Then this morning, I'm pulling a manila fold, like a big envelope to mail something out of the box or mail a big sheet of paper. And I'm like thumbing through, and one of them shot up underneath my thumbnail 3 times in the last 24 hours. I'm ready to it's like the episode of The Office where Jim like bites his cheek like 3 times, and he just like takes the mic off and leaves the talking head. Like that's where I'm at. I just want to wrap my whole hand in a club until this thing heals and stops catching on everything. I'm frustrated.
Yeah, I've had like a bristle from like a wire brush get up underneath my thumbnail before. And I'm telling you, like, I wanted to cut my hand off. It was awful.
Nothing gives me the heebie-jeebies like nails. And then the fact that I keep interfering with this one is grating on my nerves like nobody's business.
Yeah, I can't handle nails either. And I think it's because like I've spent my whole life biting mine. It's my worst habit. And so it's like anything
I
that
wouldn't say it's your
deals
worst.
Okay. Anyways,
Ole Miss football comes to mind, but anyway,
that's not a habit. That's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
But it just bugs me to know it. But my beef. Family time is around holidays. You get lots of family interaction, but the worst part of it is the family group message that gets started every single holiday season. I'm in the middle of a family group message in which, so my grandmother, I have one living grandparent left, my grandmother. She has 3 children, 7 grandchildren, and like 18 great-grandchildren. And anybody who has a phone on this side of the family is entered into this group message. And it is the most chaotic, tension-filled anxiety fest that you can imagine. Tonight, this family's Thanksgiving is going on at my parents' house. We have determined weeks ago that this is starting at 6:00, and today somebody decided to say, let's start it at 6:30 because so-and-so can't be here, doesn't get off till 7:30. Well, then it was like a chorus of other people. It's like, I got to leave by 7:30, so we need to start it at 6. And I'm just sitting over here, and everybody just like, and then they're like, everybody just calm down. Grandma's getting old. This may be the last.
Somebody pull that card.
Chill out. And I just looked at Haley, and I was like, we're going to show up at 6, and we're not going to participate in this group message. And, of course, there's like one person that doesn't have an iPhone, so I can't remove myself from the situation. The best I can do is mute it and then just go turn the notifications off. Like, it's the worst. And I'm just like, how are we really getting so upset about this?
Yeah, and group chats can be good, and then other times they can be a pain in the butt when they get popping off, especially when you're not involved. Like I've got one at work that's like a group, like instant messaging chat that has 538 members in it, and it's supposed to be for sharing updates about the company. But then people go on, but then people go on like a tear about like a pineapple upside down cake recipe or football or the traffic lights in their city, and it's like, dude. Like, why am I getting, like, are y'all not working? Like, I'm getting 100 messages right now, and it drives me insane.
Yeah, there's should be a cap of like 6 people in a group message unless it's for a special function. And if there is a special function, like our League of Avengers has 12 people in it. If we're talking about anything other than sports, you're going into timeout, and I'll add you back in later.
Yep. I mean, that's it. Like, you send tweets, you send sports memes, you talk about fantasy football or the Grizzlies, or that's it. Like, you get political, you're out. You talk about recipe, you're out. Doesn't matter.
I've almost considered adding you into another group message that I'm in that only talks to Grizzlies so that we don't bombard people who don't like the Grizzlies in our fantasy football chat.
That's fair. I've got a couple Grizz chats going. Like, I get it. Like, it's you got to keep it in its place. And if it's not important, don't put it in there. Right. Don't put it in there.
Small groups.
That's it. Well, hey, listen, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we got a lot of great Grizz content. Hang with us. It could get spicy on the other side of this break as we debate who we think is the best player on the Memphis Grizzlies. Stick around to find out.
The Grizzlies have 3 bad home losses: Brooklyn, Chicago, and this one. We're too early in the season to have that many bad home losses.
Yeah, and the other thing for me is, I talk about the 10-game sets.
Right.
They're 2-3 in this 10-game set. They were 6-4 in the first one. I said, if you can go 6-4 for an entire year, and then win those 2 games, or at least split those 2 games, it puts you at 49 or 50 wins. And that you can feel good about that. Now you're 2-3, and you don't want to. Why you're saying that for me is you don't want to have to look back so many times and say, "Man, what if we would have?"
And when you give games away, or don't take games that you feel like you should, you want to make those up somewhere else. And you just don't want that list to get too long. Well, check off the Chicago one, and then keep going down the list.
Tune in to the Night Court Podcast with your hosts, Rob Fisher and Brevin Knight, on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Jake has had a great season, all things considered. Jake Arabia in his 3rd season. He's showing the league, the Grizzlies fans, that he is a competent NBA player, and I'm okay with that. I'm fine with just that he's proven that he's an actual player in the NBA, because he was not showing us that for the last couple of years. He's been a very pleasant surprise, and almost a necessary surprise. With guys like Vince Williams out, I just think we as a fan base just have to calm down. We've seen him, he's one of the true build-a-bear projects, like I say, with this organization and with this team, where they take a guy and give him every opportunity to succeed. Opportunities at other teams. Most teams, a guy like Jake Arabia would not have made it to this point. So, like I said, he's gone from being a guy who's looked terrible to a guy who's looked like a competent NBA player. And I'm fine with just kind of stopping it right there.
Tune in to the Anthony Sane Show Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. weekly on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Welcome back to the $2 Sports Show. You can check out all those shows, bluffcitymedia.co, right here on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. However you want to consume this media, do it. We are available on all platforms. Great content creators, great shows like the ones you just saw, hot takes, bad takes, good takes. Check them all out, bluffcitymedia.co. Speaking of hot takes and bad takes and good takes, Drew, we all have our opinions. We all have our thoughts about the Memphis Grizzlies and who we think is the best player on that team. So you and I, during the Portland game on Monday night, had a little disagreement, I guess, in opinion on Twitter as to who we think is the best player on the court for the Memphis Grizzlies. And so I've been consistent this year in saying that I think that Jaren Jackson Jr. is the best player on whatever court he steps on. You think somebody else might be the best player on the Grizzlies. I don't know that either one of us are wrong. I just think we both have some differing opinions on who we think it is. Would you like to go first?
Yeah, so your tweet says Jaren continues to be the best player on whatever court he steps on. If he was playing only 5 more minutes per game, he'd be in the MVP conversation. To which I responded, he's not the best player on his team tonight. I assume you thought I was talking about Ja.
Oh, boy.
Actually talking about Jake LaRavia.
Yeah, I told me in my gut that was coming. I'm like, this fool finna say he's the only one that's planted his flag on Jake LaRavia as a great NBA player, and he's living.
I never said great. I never said great. You put these words in my mouth.
Whatever.
But no, I mean, let's be real. Jaren is great, and we will not have this conversation turn into me hating on Jaren Jackson. It just will not happen. I think he is dominant. I think he is by far. He is what we always hoped he would be. And the way he can get to his shot, he and Ja are 2 of the best players at getting to their shot and getting a high percentage bucket whenever they can. whenever
Absolutely.
they want. And so I will not besmirch Jaren Jackson Jr. today.
Mhm.
However, Ja Morant is just a generational talent. And my reason for saying this is, one, he's an all-star game starter. He is absolutely dominant. But he
Rookie of the
also
year, most improved.
rookie of the year.
Mhm.
I mean, the accolades go on forever.
Mhm.
And I'm in the vast majority here. And so by all means, milk this controversy if you want to make it for all the views you can get. But where it kind of settles in for me is that if Jaren Jackson Jr. was hurt last year and Ja Morant played with 33 different players, that team would have a much better record because Ja is the type of player that the rising tide lifts all boats. He makes everybody better. I mean, he made Zaire Williams look like a competent basketball player. And what happened is that we realized Zaire Williams was a pumpkin because Ja wasn't playing beside him at all times.
Yeah.
And he does the same thing with everybody around him. He just lifts all boats. He's an absolute superstar, the biggest superstar that the city of Memphis has ever seen.
Mhm.
And he is going away the best player on this team and the most important player on this team.
Sure.
Let's
I'll
just-
concede a lot of that. Yeah, I'll concede a lot of that. That's for sure. I think that Ja is the most dynamic player that we have. I think Ja is the best offensive player that we have. I think that he, like you said, the way he facilitates, the way he can get to the rim, the way he sees the floor, the way he moves the basketball and pushes the pace. I've never seen somebody that can run up and down the floor as quickly as he can. Offensively, Ja is by far our best player.
Yeah.
But when I'm talking about, you take the game as a whole, both ends of the floor, Jaren Jackson Jr. is not only dynamic on offense because he's a matchup nightmare. You think about, he can play 3, 4, or 5 realistically. Typically, he's a 4 or 5. But at 3, he's bigger than any small forward that he's playing. At 4, he's more athletic than any guy he's playing, and even more so at the 5. The only people that really can hold Jaren consistently are AD, and he still gives AD buckets. Wemby, just because he's just massive.
He's just freakish.
He's freakishly big. And then Giannis, because he is a generational defender. Other than that, like, he can bring Kat and Joel Embiid. He cooks Gobert. He cooks Jokic. Like, he's bigger than Bam, so he bodies Bam whenever we play Miami. He's consistently great on offense. But he's also doing things on the defensive end that are generational and historic. Last Monday night's game against Portland, he became the first player in NBA history to have 5 straight games with a steal, multiple blocks, and multiple made threes. He is a matchup nightmare on either end of the floor. He truly is an NBA unicorn because if you watch him, he's 6'10" and about 260
He's 7 foot.
Yeah, he's 7 foot now for sure. We'll say that he's always been listed 6'10", 6'11". We'll call it 7 foot. He said he weighs 260 on the Chris Vernon show coming into the season. I believe that because he has beefed up these last couple of years. But like watching, you talk about somebody can get their bucket, man. If he posts somebody up, that little turnaround hook, it's money.
Yeah.
It feeds families. The trailing 3, now his 3 shot is one of the ugliest I've ever seen, just the way he kind of pushes it from like his chin, but it somehow goes in. That trailing 3 on fast breaks is unbelievable. And then when he has an anchor like a Steven Adams, soon to be Zach Edey when he's fully healthy, like nobody is safe from his help side defense. And so I'll concede that Josh probably the most dynamic, athletic, and best offensive player we have. Jaren's not far behind him there. But what makes me think that Jaren's the best player on our team is what he does on both ends of the floor as a former defensive player of the year, trending towards a first team all defensive, not another DPOY this year. And I stand by what I said. He's currently 6th in points per 36 minutes, and he's playing the least amount of actual minutes of that entire list by about 3 or 4 minutes. So if he was getting, 34, 35, 36 minutes a night like LeBron and Booker and SGA are on that list, he would not only would be number 1, but he would be right in the thick of the MVP conversation.
I don't think there's any doubt about that at all, and especially if you're doing it without Ja Morant.
Yeah.
But the problem is that given in this offense, I think is a little bit of the problem too, because as I said, I think I said it on the Daily Grind on Monday, but it just seems like it's leveling the play. It's giving stats to everybody. It's a communist offense.
Yeah,
is the way I put it. This communist offense gets everybody stats. It gives everybody, it smooths out the points per game, and which is a great thing in theory, but it doesn't allow folks like Jaren Jackson Jr. to stand out in points. Now, my biggest beef with Jaren, and it goes the same way with Ja sometimes, except is they kind of lose that aggression offensively.
sure.
They kind of go through spells where they kind of don't look for their shot. Now, Ja makes up for that because he's an assist machine. Like he's going to get somebody a bucket if he's not getting a bucket. Jaren doesn't at times, but there's no doubt in my mind. Like when you're looking for the next 5 years, you can't sell me on a better point guard big man combination in the league.
Absolutely.
Like,
this is a great conversation to have and a great problem to have where you're literally got two different size and style players as your best player whenever they're on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, Jokic and Murray was who I would have thought about in this situation, but Murray's kind of taken a nosedive lately.
Yeah.
And so I just I'm all in. I love both of them. If you're asking me to pick one player from the team, I'm picking Ja.
Fair. And mine will be Jaren. He's impressed me with his maturity of being, again, he deserves a Presidential Medal of Freedom for what he did last year with that team. And then his rebounding has gotten so much better, as has his points per game. He started his career averaging 13.8. He's ballooned up to 22.8 points per game. Used to, he couldn't get a rebound to save his life, averaging just 4 early in his career. He's averaging almost 6 now, 5.5 this year. Jaren truly is a matchup nightmare and a unicorn for what the big man position should be. And so, again, great problem to have when you're having this debate. Who's the best player on your team? When you can pick between Ja and Jaren, you're in really good shape. And so we talk about Ja and Jaren as the best players on the team. Don't forget we've got a third member of that team, as my co-host here is on a phone call. So you got to bear with me here for a minute. But when Ja, Jaren, and Desmond Bane have played together, that has been an elite level NBA combination. They have played in 105 regular season games together in their career. In those 105 games, the Grizzlies have outscored their opponents by 276 points when those three are on the court. 53 of those games were during the 21-22 season, and they played together in 41 games over the past 2 since. So, that's straight out of Statty Sean Coleman on Twitter, meaning that they played the bulk of it during that 21-22 season. And Drew, I don't know if you remember that season or not, but that was the 56-win team that should have beat the Warriors given health. And so when Ja, Jaren, and Dez, and I know everybody's kind of soured on Dez, and Dez has had a rough stretch coming back from injury, but this is an elite level 3-player combo. And I talked about this Tuesday on the Daily Grind. I'm not so sure that Dez is 100%. He's got a history of back issues. We all know that. You add in an oblique injury, which an oblique is a lateral ab muscle on your side here, helps with rotation and spinal stabilization. And so when that's out of whack, it's going to cause back issues that Dez is known to have. So I would not be surprised at all if he's been dealing with some of that, not saying anything because he's tough. He's a player and he's trying to be out there. But to have those 3 guys at the top of this lineup and this team, I would put them up against anybody else in the NBA.
Of course. The only thing that we've been talking about for a season and a half is given health. And what we've always said, the reason why we've always been confident is because the last time all 3 of those people were healthy, we were the 2 seed in the West, and injuries kept us from advancing further. And so I'm all in. I'm all in on Dez. Yes, I have in group messages, I've lamented the fact that he's kind of gotten off to a real sluggish start after this oblique injury. However, if you watch him on the bench, he's always got heat on his lower back. And that shows signs that he's either dealing with a nagging injury or it's just tightening up on him, or he's just trying extremely hard to stay loose or to keep it from tightening up on him. And so it does seem like he is dealing with something. And if you think about what a shooting motion looks like and the muscles that are employed while shooting a basketball, shooting a jump shot, especially as high as he jumps and as athletic as his jump shot is, that oblique muscle has to be, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, one of the most important and critical muscles in a jump shot.
It is. It stabilizes your spine for the jump, especially for the impact coming back down. That's where you're really going to feel it. So at push off and landing, and he's thinking about that. If it hurts on push off, it's going to distract him. Then as he lets go, it hurts on the way back down. That's going to impede his ability to make that shot, no doubt.
Yeah. And so given health, again, we've always been confident on this team. On this show, we both picked the Grizzlies into the Western Conference Finals or the finals. I mean, we just anticipate that. And we anticipate that because we are not being swayed by health concerns, despite how hard Grizz PR is trying to make us like crawl into a cave.
Absolutely. And go to the dark place.
Yeah, it was terrifying. I had a moment of absolute terror last night, being Monday night against the Portland Trailblazers, where John knocked knees and went to the bench and put a wrap on his knee. And of course, I was like, I think he's fine, but don't show him. Like, this is what I sent out in the Discord. I was like, listen, if you're Ja Morant, knowing our history and how plagued we are as fans, never put a brace on and go sit on the bench. Like, just go to the back and put your brace on or whatever. Like, I don't want to see it. I just want you to be okay.
Yeah,
and
just be fine.
I don't want any hint that you may not be. I can't handle it right now.
Exactly. I'm fragile right now. But Drew, it's because of the depth that we've had. I talked about this on the Daily Grind on Tuesday, but like Jake LaRavia has taken massive strides this year and played good basketball. As of 11/25, so Monday, he was the number one player in the NBA on percentages of the highest assist percentage on drives at 18.6%. Zach Edey has the best net rating of all rookies at plus 9.1. Jalen Wells has the best defensive field goal percentage among rookies in the NBA at 39%. Desmond Bane is the best on-ball two-point defending guard in the NBA, only giving up 32% of the shots, 32% in the paint. Like, Des has been playing really, really well. But that leads to kind of the conversation of what does a healthy backcourt look like? We were talking about this a little bit off air. Like, we've got some people coming back from health. And so, that position 1 through 3 is going to be a bit muddied. We've been muddied in the post with Edey, Huff, Jaren, BC, trying to work those through. Edey's been out, so it's kind of cleared the waters there a little bit for a natural rotation. Well, then we have Scottie Pippen Jr. go for 30 and 10 on Saturday in Chicago, only to play, 14 minutes or so against Portland on Monday, and his role reduced. And I think we're going to see a lot of that from Taylor Jenkins as he's trying to figure out what the best rotation looks like. What does that look like? We obviously know the starters. What they have been Ja, Dez, and Jalen at 1, 2, 3. What does that rotation start looking like as it pairs down?
First off, I loved the lineup that he threw out Monday against the Portland Trailblazers. I loved Ja, Dez, Jalen, Jaren, and BC. I think that's a lineup that the only way I would tinker with it right now is when Zach Edey gets healthy. I will listen to Zach Edey taking over Brandon Clark's minutes. I also loved the second unit and being Marcus Smart, Luke Kennard, Jay Huff, Santi Aldama, and Scottie Pippen Jr. I think those all went well together. Luke Kennard has been incredible since his shot has been money since he came back. He's doing a really good job facilitating. He was a guy that I thought would kind of be the one to pay the piper for the team when it came to the emergence of Jalen Wells. But Luke Kennard has been really, really good off the bench there. I was really stunned to see that Scottie Pippen Jr. last night ended with 10 minutes, 12 minutes on the game, and he closed the game in a blowout as well. And so a lot of minutes came in garbage time. But I think there is some insight there to what Taylor Jenkins is thinking. And to the credit of guys like Anthony Sane in the offseason, who was not putting a lot of stock into Scottie Pippen Jr. because of how they were going to use Marcus and Dez as point guards. that seemed to be what Taylor Jenkins did last night, and it worked. And it worked against a bad team who were down guards and big men. Like that's probably bad. You don't want to try to gather a lot of data from that game, but I think it is neat. It's a good thought exercise to look at. And Marcus looked good with the second unit. I like Marcus with the second unit. Again, you're going to get Scotty's going to get minutes, but I have to think that if everybody is healthy, Scotty is probably the guy that's going to, lose minutes. And you saw that with Tyus. Tyus didn't get a lot of minutes. Everybody looks at Tyus as like the golden boy, the prototypical backup point guard because of how important he was when Ja was out.
Right.
Well, that's where Scottie Pippen's going to make his money too, not when Ja's in. And so when Ja's in, I'm good with Scottie Pippen Jr. getting a handful of minutes, but there's going to be times where you need Scottie Pippen Jr. and he's going to deliver. I just don't know that it's going to be at the usage rate that he was getting when Ja was there. Bane and Marcus Smart were out.
Yeah, it won't be. And it'll be the same for Jake at the 3 because you're going to have Vince, you're going to have Gigi, you're going to have Jalen Wells now that are going to be getting minutes. And again, I'm fine with him getting a handful of minutes to spell those guys or when you need him for a back-to-back or soreness. But the 3 position is another one where you're going to get muddied a little bit. And Jake has played well, and I've been a staunch critic of his, but I'll give flowers where they're due, and he's played really well. But not enough to where I'm saying, hey, we need to really ration his minutes to get with Gigi to make sure Jake gets run. Like, I think when it comes down to it, our point guards are going to be Ja, Marcus, and Luke, probably in that order. Then Scottie Pippen Jr. This is all given health and assuming health, a fully healthy team. Just like our wing rotation, in my opinion, should be Vince, Jalen, Gigi, and then Jake. Now, I also think that there's going to come a time, and I talked about this on the Daily Grind, we're talking about our backcourt here, where I can see a starting backcourt of Ja, Jalen, and Vince. And I think that's a strong starting 3. And then having Desmond Bane come off the bench. I know he's a $200 million man. He's super expensive. But like I talked about with Luke, and I've talked about this in some other group chats, not my idea, but I'm kind of coming around to the idea. Think about those Spurs teams, man. Like Manu Ginobili coming off the bench was money. And he was a starter. He was an NBA starter. Just because Dez is not starting at the 2, that's not because of his play. That's not because he hasn't earned it or he's not an NBA starter. It's simply because we're trying out different combinations to start the game. And maybe Desmond Bane coming in against the other team's second unit is where we live. And he absolutely buries teams. Because you imagine, him getting a run against Portland's second team or the Lakers or some of these teams that aren't as deep as us. Good luck guarding Desmond. And so a 2-guard rotation of Jalen Wells, Desmond Bane, and then Luke or Marcus as that third one, I think could be a healthy winning rotation.
Yeah, I think you've got a lot of toys to play with. And, part of the reason why everybody is on Taylor is because of rotations and you want to shorten it. And I get that argument. I've made that argument myself. But there is an embarrassment of riches here. Jake Arabia has played his way into the rotation. I don't know. He's made that decision very difficult for Taylor. Jake Arabia had more minutes last night than Marcus Smart, than Jay Huff, than Jalen Wells, than Santi Aldama. I mean, he's just played himself into a role. And he does all the nasty stuff. Yeah, he only had, he had 8 points, 2 of 3 from the field, so 4 free throws. But he also had 5 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal, and 2 blocks. And so he's just played himself into a role that it is unquestionable that you want him to be a part of the rotation. But who do you right? But we're talking right now at the moment, and so yeah. So I mean, it's hard decisions to be made. I would roll with my backcourt. I would roll with Ja. I'd roll with Bane. I'd roll with Jalen Wells right now. And I would leave Marcus on the bench. And big ups to Marcus, too. He came out and was asked about moving to the bench. And a guy that's been a starter his whole life, he's been a starter on NBA Finals teams. He's been a starter on Eastern Conference Finals teams. For him to say, I just want to win, and I'll do whatever's necessary. It's
Absolutely.
big for him, and that's a voice that I want in my locker room. It's just another reason why the off the court stuff matters a lot more with Marcus Smart than it does on the court.
Yeah, and they asked Dez about it, and him and Jaren both this week about leaders on this team, and they said, "Look, Marcus is a great leader, he's a vet leader, but we're leaders as well. Like we've been around, we need to step up. It's time for us to be those leaders." But Marcus Smart absolutely is what a great answer. He said, we're going to roll with the rookie. He's been playing well, and we're going to ride with him to see what happens. And I think he just handled it like a professional, like we knew he would. I mean, Marcus is he's a great ambassador for the game and a good player and just a great all-around locker presence from what I've heard.
And what
he
Marcus
handled it
Smart
well.
realizes as a veteran is that this stuff works itself out. Like no coach in the world wants to make a good player mad at him or wants to purposely play worse players but more than good players. This thing works itself out.
Exactly.
And I'm curious to see. I've always said starting lineup does not matter nearly as much as closing lineups. Last night we didn't get to see that because we got to see a closing lineup featuring Yuki and John Conchar.
and Conchar did hit a big corner three, man. It was good to see him at that shot.
I'm curious to see. Like I said, we're recording this on Tuesday. I'm fascinated to see what Wednesday night's game looks like against Detroit because that team is always in these nail biter end of game situation games that just it seems like Detroit only plays crazy games. So I'm curious to see what a finishing lineup looks like with Marcus Smart coming off the bench.
Yeah, because that team's gritty. And so, again, we haven't seen this record this on Tuesday. That team's gritty. It'll be interesting to see what happens about that. But we talked a lot about the players and the bench and the roles that we've been playing. What does it look like as a quarterly check-in, Drew? We'll talk about it. We got a couple other topics we'll get to, but we do want to take a brief time to talk quarterly check-ins. And so we're going to talk who we think is our most valuable player, who is our most improved player, and then finally, who's been the biggest surprise for the Grizzlies so far? We're, 18 games, roughly 22% into the season. So it's a good check-in. So, Drew, we'll start with MVP. Who has been your most valuable player for this Grizzlies team so far?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, you've got a lot of options. Because of the offense, like I said, you don't really have that statistical leader, that points to. However, anytime that you're down Ja and you're down Desmond, for significant stretches of a season, it's Jaren Jackson Jr. Because without Jaren Jackson Jr., this team would be 4 and whatever. I mean, you're losing most games. But because you've got that guy, that one dude allows you a lot of wiggle room and it allows you to be competitive. Him coupled with just a mutiny of role players, really good role players. He is the star. He's the one that stirs the drink when they're out. So you've missed Ja for, I believe he's missed 10 games this year.
I think that's right.
Desmond's missed, a handful, 5 to 10 games this year. Marcus has 2. Like Jaren, and I mean, there were guys that you would have never saw this coming early in his career. Jaren got dogged more than any superstar that the Grizzlies have ever had because of injury and foul trouble early in his career, and many people wanted to bail. Many people did bail. But he has been the most durable player that the Grizzlies have had over the last 3 years, and he doesn't foul out. He's corrected all of that while enriching his offensive game and then winning a defensive player of the year in the process. Like
that's it.
He is absolutely the most valuable player of the team a quarter of the way through the season.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. He's been Mr. Dependable, Mr. Durable on both ends of the floor. He's always there when you need a big block. Even the other night against Portland, he made a mistake and had a turnover and immediately turned it into a block on a fast break. And he's matured so much from the lanky kid that we drafted that fouled out every other night and just stupid fouls. He has those occasionally, but now you can tell, once he gets that third foul, he locks in and is a different player. And he
allows himself some wiggle room. He allows himself enough. He only takes 1 or 2 stupid fouls, instead of 5.
Yeah. And that's the thing. So many times early in his career, Drew, we'd see him get a foul and into the next possession or two, get a frustration foul after it. Right. And now he rarely gets 2 or 3 fouls in the same quarter. Sometimes he would do that in 5 minutes. He's grown up. And like just to see him become a leader on this team, he's that quiet leader. You don't have to worry about him in the offseason or whatever. Just on social media, he's at fashion shows and hanging out with Brandon Clark. Like that's just what he does. But absolutely been the MVP probably for the last couple of seasons, like you said, due to injury. And I think so far this year. Most improved player for me, it's got to be Jake LaRavia. I mean, it is, man. It's not even close. I've been a staunch critic of his. I have been, I still don't think he is going to be a high minute getter on this team. I still think he's more valuable to us as a trade piece, which to me is still showing improvement and improving the team. And so from the injury riddled start to his season and his career and what little bit we saw out of him to just this dog mentality that after I think it was the Chicago game on Saturday and the post-game interview with Fish, just like, hey, I know my role. I'm a hustle guy. I'm going to get the hustle things. I'm going to go get the rebounds and do the things that guys don't want to do because I know that's what this team needs. And so for me, it's been Jake LaRavia. I don't know that it's close. Scottie Pippen Jr. has grown up a lot since last season, but just from how everybody, myself included, was completely out on Jake LaRavia to where he is now, Jake has been my most improved player.
Yeah, I mean, I will make the argument that he's always been this good. He's just never been given a chance.
Anyway,
he had an absolutely horrendous start, and I've made the case before.
Before
the front office, the front office makes their decisions based on spreadsheets. We know this. Okay, there is a reason why they drafted Jake LaRavia. It's because he does other stuff. And it's not a score. He was never drafted to score, and he never got the opportunity because he didn't deserve it at the time. But I always said, just give him the minutes and he'll probably be fine. And so he's gotten the minutes the end of last year after he got healthy, and this year as he's continued to be healthy, to be a very good basketball player. And I can't really say anything more about him. Like, he's not great. I've never said he's great, but I've always said that he does a lot of things really well.
He does.
And he has made himself an asset to this team. And like you said, maybe it's true that his best asset, the way he can help this team going forward, is being a valuable piece in a trade to get back a fourth star. If that's the case, then that's a win. And
huge.
And that's a win for me, because if Rusty were trading for Jake LaRavia, he would not take $1,000 and Jake LaRavia.
It's a big win. It's just like you said, like when you're a football coach in college, like if he leaves to go to a bigger school, it's because they wanted him. If he leaves in a trade, it's because they wanted him. We couldn't get rid of Zaire to get a paperweight back. Like there was nothing we could do to move that guy.
Yeah, you gave up a pick, I think, to get Zaire.
We had to sweeten the pot. Now you could tag on Jake LaRavia with the Marcus Smart and go get a superstar, and teams will be like, cool, we'll take Marcus to help out and make the math work. But then we want Jake because Jake can help us build in a rebuilding team. And I think that's a win in how he helps us.
There's so many specialists in the NBA. There's the guy that shoots, or the guy that passes, or the guy that defends or blocks shots. He does all of it. There's very few of those guys who can do 3 or 4 things really well.
And we love those guys because we've had Tony Allen, we've had Zach Randolph, we've had
Kyle
Anderson, DeAnthony Melton, like these guys that do the little things well. They're not going to go get you a 30-piece and be a night in and night out dude, but they're going to be there. Xavier Tillman when you need him. It's like that needs to be the award, is the Xavier Tillman Award for guys that are there when you need them to do little things.
That's right.
And then lastly, the biggest surprise of this season. I'll let you go first. I went first on MIP. Who's been your biggest surprise this year?
I mean, there's been a lot, actually. I mean, I think you could put Jake LaRavia in this category, but I think he fits the most improved more. There's been a few. I would have to say that it's Jalen Wells. 39th overall pick in the second round. You just don't really expect that. He kind of you could see it in his college tape, but you couldn't see it in a spreadsheet form. Like he didn't really get any steals or blocks, or he could shoot, and that was great, but it was like, what else can you do? And with a 39th pick, you're just like, okay, it's a flyer that maybe you can develop him into something. that's the range in which they took Vince Williams. That's the range they took.
Brandon Clark.
Well, Brandon Clark was late 20 or early 20s.
That's
but
right.
the second round picks, that they've had so much success with, it's never been immediate.
Yeah.
And the fact that Jalen Wells has had an immediate impact on this team was very surprising to me. And in a draft class that is is thought to be very poor at the top, it's shown to be very deep in the middle of the first round into the second round. Jalen Wells, I'll never expect a 39th overall pick to be a contributor on a very good NBA team ever. Yeah. And he has been unmistakably amazing. Yeah.
In 18 games. And toot my own horn, humble brag, whatever. I was upset about the Edey pick. So I dove deep on Jalen Wells, watched his film, and I was pretty early on the team like, hey, this guy could be good. I had no idea he could be this great of a defender. Because like you said, his college tape showed that he had a great long-range shot. He was timid to get to the rim, and he just wasn't. He kind of got lost in space sometimes. But the shot was there, and it's very, very pure. And all he did was work his butt off in the summer and the preseason to be that defender. And now he's a starter as a rookie, 18 games in on the 5th seed in the West, in the NBA Western Conference on a very good team. And he's just, on nights that his shot isn't falling, he'll go get you 2 or 3 steals. He'll get you 6 or 7 rebounds. And then he can go on an
make life
heater.
Difficult.
He is. And then he'll go on an absolute heater like against Chicago where he dropped 26 on the road. And the guys, I mean, you see it there with the shot is there, but very much like in Jake LaRavia, he's doing the little things well. And he's doing them deadpan with no excitement on his face and just like pestering Steph Curry. He cut off Jared McCain's water the other night, last week on the 76ers game for 2 quarters. And he's only going to get better with time. Jalen is a big reason why we're having a lot of issues figuring out a rotation, figuring out what a starting lineup's going to look like, because he is far ahead of the game. And he should be the reason that the Grizzlies should trade all future first-round picks, not in the top 2 or 3 when Ja Morant's in the draft, and only draft second-round picks.
I agree. Trade all your first-round picks.
Let's just go draft because we do well in the second round, and it is what it is.
And I think it's because there's a market. They found a market inefficiency with older players. Older players always contribute quicker. And when you look at second-round success that the Grizzlies have had and drafted these players, you look at Dylan Brooks, who was, 28 when he got out of college. You look at Vince Williams Jr., who's a multi-year college player.
24.
You look at Jalen Wells, who went D2 and then D1 played 1 year at Washington State. He's a 22, 23-year-old college basketball player. And so, or 21, 22-year-old college basketball player. They're mature players that are able to understand their role. They're not, high draft picks at 18 who thinks they're coming in and saving the franchise. They're coming in knowing that they've got to play a role because that's what they've done their whole career.
Yeah, that's it. And they know their role. They've had it established on good teams like Jalen Wells. That Wazoo team was pretty good. Cam Spencer at UConn. Like, they know what their role is going to be on an NBA team, and it shows. Like, they're stepping in. Zach Edey, same thing, very mature, understand his role. And they know where they're going to fit into fit in on this team. Literally, right now, 3 minutes ago, Parker Fleming, Paka_Flocka on Twitter posted that the Memphis Grizzlies should be considered one of the deepest teams in the NBA. He posted some stats that kind of tie in with our conversation here as we're wrapping up. We're doing the little things well. We are first in blocks, second in assists per game, averaging 30 assists per game. If you're averaging 30 assists on roughly 40 to 45 makes, that's like, for those of you who don't know, that's incredible. That's really, really top tier. Second in points per game, which is a far cry from those core 4 years when we used to beat people in the mud, averaging 120 points per game. Third in rebounds, 5th in field goal percentage. We have 7 players averaging 3 or more assists in the NBA. Only team in the NBA that's top 6 in both offensive rating and defensive rating. We have 7 players averaging 10 plus points. And finally, 5 players averaging 5 or more rebounds. Like, I don't know what more compelling argument you need for this is a complete team. And we're not even playing with our best of our best. Like we've talked about at this show and other shows at nauseum. Like, this team is just not healthy yet. And we're still one of the best teams in the league. Again, I don't envy Taylor Jenkins for some of the issue he has coming up. figuring out, like, it's a good problem to have, but you got to figure out who's going to eat and who's not, because you can't play 15 guys every night.
Yeah. Also, per Daniel Greer on Grizz 901 postgame show last night, the Grizzlies are about middle of the pack in NBA on offensive rebound differential per game.
Mm-hmm.
They are first in the NBA in defensive rebound differential in the NBA. They are getting rebounds, and Santi Aldama had 17 last night off the bench. They had 60 rebounds against the Portland Trailblazers, which, let's just be honest here, that Portland team was a danger to society shooting the basketball last night.
Sure.
There were people. I'm surprised there wasn't somebody halfway behind the scores table last night that didn't catch a stray off of a 3-point attempt from from Portland. But they had 60 rebounds and they had 35 assists and 13 blocks. They had 44 defensive rebounds, 16 offensive rebounds. They were really good in the hustle categories.
Yeah, and we continue to do that. Our closing lineups of Jaren and BC are still some of the best in the NBA. You throw Santi in there, and it's elite level. Jaren's having a career year in less minutes per game than he's averaged in his entire career. And so the best is yet to come with this team. We're still figuring it out. We're young. We're getting healthy. We're still missing Gigi, who's on his way back. It'll be a while before we get Vince. I think we'll have Edie back in the next couple of weeks in some capacity. And so this team is getting healthy at the right time, just in time for Taylor Jenkins to go be the coach of the year once again for the month, or coach of the month once again in the month of January, because that's when he turns it on. And Drew, if we're putting together these kind of numbers in November, I cannot wait to see what happens. We're fully healthy in Taylor's best month, which is the month of January.
Yeah. Buckle up. I think the Grizzlies are going to get ready to go on a run. We've always got to add the caveat given health, but it is Tuesday when we're recording this. I've not looked forward to a game in this short season so far as much as I've looked forward to the Detroit game and looking towards the weekend, just because you've got Ja Morant and Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. all playing. Like that, just having them available and healthy, ready to play adds a lot of excitement. And I cannot wait to see what this team looks like when they get 15 straight games with the 4. It's just at this point, stay healthy and stack up the amount of minutes that you play together. And this team's going to be dangerous.
We don't play a team with a winning record again until December the 3rd. And that's when we play the Mavericks. And then after that, it's not until December the 7th against the Celtics. And so that'll be nut cutting time. We'll know what we have against that Celtics team, but we've got an opportunity to go on a run. You got to beat Detroit in tonight's game against New Orleans. They're playing with New Orleans High School. They've got an injury report that looked like ours from last year. Let's go get our first cup win. Like, we're not going to win the cup this year. We didn't win it last year, but let's go get that first win, get that monkey off our back. I know it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but it does. Like, it's a game that's circled a little bit, right? I want
to be a part of the party.
Yeah, I don't want to be on a list with the Trailblazers and the Spurs and the Wizards that just got off of it of not having a cup win. Like, let's go get one, man, dadgummit, before we hit December, when the schedule tightens up a little bit. Again, you got the Mavericks, you got the Celtics, you've got the Warriors, you've got a little bit tougher schedule in December. So let's stack up some wins now. You talk about the core 3. I wouldn't be too far off from putting Jalen Wells on that core 4 if he continues to improve. And these are games where he can get a lot of run to get ready for facing the Celtics in a few weeks, where he's going to have his work cut out for him.
Yeah, it's still a core 3 for me, but there is a wide, vast second tier on this Grizzlies team that somebody eventually will make it to that number 4 guy, whether it be GG or Vince or Jalen or Zach Edey. But there's a lot of if this is a sandwich, a hamburger, you got Ja and Jared on top, but that's a big, thick, meaty patty in the middle of that that you've got a bunch of players that you like. And then you've got John Conchar as the very small little sliver at the bottom.
He's that one onion on the bottom over there on the side. Yeah, it gives a little flavor that hits here and there. But yeah, stay tuned. Tune in next week. Thanks for being here this week, guys. We always appreciate hanging out with y'all for roughly an hour every week. It's a great time. We had a great time going live last week. More of that's coming. We'll hop in again on live. The comments were popping last week. Thank y'all for doing that and being here. Tune in next week. Next week's show is going to be something. We're going to talk expansion draft. We're going to talk trades. We're going to talk how this Grizzlies team could possibly get better, if that's even a thing. Like, do we need to get better? Is this team, like Drew and I championed in the offseason, championship ready as is. That'll be on topic for next week. Tune in next week to our show, same time, 3 o'clock next Friday on YouTube. But in the meantime, Drew, there are no refunds for what you hear on the 2 Buck Sports Show.
That's right. Because with the $2, you always get what you pay for. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the 2 Buck Sports Show. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. For comprehensive coverage of all things Memphis sports, head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co and find out how you can become an insider. We will see you back here next time.